Eric was the second workshop that I took, and again, I didn't find myself wanting to paint like him, but I purposely sought out instructors that were very loose, and just hoping that I could pick up some tips and kind of break out of my medical illustration shell that going into my watercolor career. And Eric is about as loose as it gets, and on top of being just a really really nice guy, we've become somewhat friends over the years also. But so I'm just going to show some of his work. All these artists, I'll just show some examples of their work, and maybe just talk a little bit about why I like their style and what I see as unique of them. Eric is just, for the most part, it's just like pure emotional response to the subject in front of him, no matter what he's painting. But it's not to say that it's sloppy. Okay, there's a big difference. Again, a lot of people look at his work and think it's just a little bit chaotic and disorganized, but it's not really. He's very intuitive. He's been painting a lot longer than I have, and he just kind of has a feeling for what works and what doesn't. There's a very well placed, dark shapes to define some of these light blossoms in here. Using dark leaves to show some of these little lighter blossoms, like I said. And again, this, a bouquet of flowers. I know it's used in a still life a lot, but as I judge shows, I've seen so many floral paintings that are just so tight and detailed, and that's fine, but every once in a while it's nice to see one like this, where it's just this explosion of color and life. Again, flowers are alive, they're living, and much like people and animals that I talk about in my in the paintings, and trying to give you tips to make them show like they're alive. And Eric's floral still lifes certainly qualify for that. Here's another beautiful example of one of his floral paintings. Again, yeah, it might look a little bit chaotic, but just pay attention to how he uses these great negative shapes of the foliage after the fact to kind of carve out the lighter blossoms in front of it. Okay, so and just beautiful wet into wet work, and these little blossoms up on the top here. It's such a difficult thing to do when you are working rapidly like this. You almost just kind of go into a zone, and again, it's just years and years of experience of being able to he doesn't kind of follow that value study plan like I do, obviously, where he's kind of working from one bead. He's working the whole canvas all at once, and just trying to pull it all together and make sure that works. And then again, that's a really difficult thing to do, but he manages to pull it off in the end, far more often than not. This is a little example. I actually own this painting, a small little painting that I bought after I took his workshop. It's been hanging in our house for many years. And again, just a really nice example of these kind of wet blooms, and then using those nice little sharp dark edge shapes. You'll notice a lot like Skip Lawrence, the white paper is used excuse me, a lot in Eric's work. He and a lot of these, still there's white paper in this one, white paper in the background of this one. Really just kind of sets everything off beautifully. Okay, now we're looking at a landscape of his, Ilwaco Repair. Ilwaco is the area in Washington where he lives. And so he does a lot of his family. His father been in the oyster business for a long time, and a lot of fishermen up there. So that is very prevalent in his landscapes as well. But once again, you'll notice the use of the white paper in a lot of areas. He doesn't. I watched Eric do a demonstration at the plein air convention one year, and he actually kind of starts with his middle values, and so he does not wet the paper first, and that's what allows him to maintain a lot of these white areas without having to think about it. He's not wetting the paper and worrying about leaving white paper behind where he needs it. He just kind of dives in with a big brush and a lot of color, and just starts putting in those middle value shapes and making sure that works first. Then a lot of times after that, he'll start coming in while that's still wet and dropping his darks in, which you can kind of see down here. A lot like I like to do, when I'm putting in foliage and trees and stuff, to make sure that my darks are kind of merging into those middle value shapes. So at that point, it's almost just white paper, and he's starting to develop all that middle value construct and dropping in some of these darker darks, letting them kind of fuzz a little bit into things. And then at the end of it, he'll come back in and start putting in some of this sky area up here. And at that point, now maybe he's, trying to put in this pale gray and show the side of that boat and the top of this little pier by painting that shape around it at the end. And he's not always just painting around shapes. Obviously, when he's putting this in, he'll paint through shapes. And I'm sure in this foreground, that's some of what happened also. Because he doesn't wet the paper first, he might have a lot of hard edge shapes, but then he comes in a lot of times before things are totally dry with that lighter wash. And at that point, then he's kind of softening some edges almost after the fact. So it's just a bit of a different approach, but I think it really works for him. One of the students that's been in the course for a couple of years, Tanya, I think you'd really appreciate Eric's work and searching it out more. When I see a lot of your work, this kind of stuff comes to mind a lot of times. This is a nice little landscape of his, marshland snow. Again, just kind of using that white of the paper, obviously for the clouds and the snow. A little bit chaotic, but it works for him. Beautiful painting. That emotional response to the landscape, it separates out. And again, a lot of this is just because I get so tired of the trend towards really tight, realistic paintings. And I've spoken about this to all of you before in some previous posts, that I think if I was going to self-critique myself, I'm a little bit too cautious maybe and true to nature. I'm trying to really show that, and I don't know if I'll change. I'll never go this far off, but I certainly have a lot of respect for people who can look at that kind of a landscape and just have these kind of paintings pour out of them. Like I said, it's almost just pure emotion at that point, but not sloppy. It's organized chaos for sure. He definitely knows what he's doing. Storm surge, just really strong color. He does work on a smoother paper than I do also, and I think that allows him to get some of this, happening in these light areas too. What a gorgeous, gorgeous painting. I just love that. Wow. And at first look, at first glance, when you see this, you might think it's just over the top and not organized very well and too colorful. But it was amazing when I was going through these. I kind of half shut my eyes and squinted and looked at this, and it all holds together much more convincingly when you do that. When you're looking at it with your eyes open, you see all the the strong jumps and color shifts between the values and shapes in here. But when you squint a little bit, that sky especially is really convincing. And that white paper, that rim of the cloud up there. Just love his free use of color everywhere. I mean, that violet and gold up there is so beautiful. Another energetic sky squall coming in. You might think of a storm squall, all gray and dark, gloomy colors. Eric doesn't care. Beautiful colors, energy. Couple that he did from in Spain. I think now you can start to see a little bit more of what I was talking before with his approach as far as kind of leaving that white paper and almost just doing a colorful value study, leaving the white paper behind for a lot of the lights, and then joining these color shapes together, dropping in some of these darks, and then coming in with this sky wash afterwards and softening some edges, especially up at the top of these buildings. That's how you can get some of those lost edges after the fact. Another one from Spain. Once again, that white paper. A lot of people comment on my my value studies when I post them alongside a painting, and I feel the same way often, that the value study is just stronger and it reads better, and a lot of it is because I think obviously the simplicity behind it, and then the color paintings, it's got a lot more going on, but that really graphic simplicity of the value study is very attractive in a lot of cases. But part of it, I think, is because that value study also, the light wash is represented by the white of the paper, and so it does have that stronger contrast and a little bit of a cleaner look. And I do like, I mean, it's not going to work for every subject obviously, but something like this, Spain, a beach scene in Spain and high sun, you can almost just let that white of the paper go and represent it, and concentrate on all the middle values and darks around it. Really gives it a nice clean look. And again, just this, not afraid of color, that's for sure. Really bold, really strong, just gorgeous. But I can't stress this enough. It's not chaotic. It's still well thought out, well planned. Okay, everything holds together and harmonizes. That beautiful complementary color scheme in this really is what helps make those orange umbrellas glow much more than you would normally think. Okay, that use of complementary colors. Hi, my name's Andy Evansen. Over the course of this year, I'll be discussing a lot of ways to improve your paintings with a focus on watercolor in particular. Watercolor is a popular medium, but there are technical issues that can become stumbling blocks during the learning process. The painting becomes a lot more fun once you've solved them and can start refining your craft. I'll cover topics that are unique to watercolor, such as painting wet and wet, the timing and consistency of your washes, the importance of drawing and negative shape making, and more. I'll also be talking a lot about how vital it is to have a plan. The transparent nature of watercolor means you're limited in the amount of fixing you can do once you've started, and indecisiveness, that's what leads to the weak, muddy paintings. Because this course spans a calendar year, you'll be able to see me painting outdoors on location as well as in the studio. We can talk about the differences and similarities of both. I've taught dozens of 3 to 5 day workshops, and most of the time, just as students are starting to figure things out, it's time to say goodbye. This course through Tucson Art Academy Online allows me to work with you for an entire year, so we'll be able to get into things that just aren't possible in a 4-day workshop. As an artist who also loves to teach, I'm really excited about the possibilities of this. I hope you'll join me.